Greetings, and welcome back to another episode of Resiliency Gardening. I'm Corey Eckman, your homesteading graduate assistant at SRU's McCoskey Center, and in today's episode, I want to tell you why preserving herbs is such a huge deal. So I hope that you can find the time to watch this video, and let's herb our enthusiasm and dig in. A few weeks ago, we discussed the issue of food waste here in the United States by composting. But in this video, I want to show you how you can reduce your food waste even further by preserving your food. And so I'm going to show you this by using your herbs out of your garden. Have you ever thought about how people kept their food from spoiling before we had refrigerators? Well, before the 1940s, they were using things like ice boxes, and then before that, they were even doing things like canning, which is something that we all might be familiar with, as well as drying, and then last would be fermenting. And so there's plenty of other ways. There's also salting, sugaring, pickling, and so there's a ton of different ways, but in today's video I'm going to talk to you about 3 different ways in which you can preserve your herbs this season. First, let's talk about air drying herbs. Air drying is the easiest and least expensive method you could use when deciding on preserving your herbs. You will simply cut some string, wrap it several times to create an herb bundle, and then hang them somewhere where they won't be in direct sunlight, and then they will slowly dry out between 10 and 20 days. Some herbs are prone to getting moldy during the air drying process, so to combat this, use a dehumidifier, or if you don't have one, consider one of the following methods I'll mention. The herbs that tend to mold when you hang them to air dry are ones that are high in moisture, and so here's a list of low moisture herbs compared to high moisture herbs, and try to use the low moisture if you've never done this before. The second method we are going to talk about is freezing your herbs. I like this method because it makes cooking a fast weeknight meal even faster. I found the best herbs to preserve this way are things like chives, rosemary, sage, oregano, thyme, and basil. This is a great option for any of those herbs that have the potential to mold while hanging to dry. So here's where I demonstrate how to use the freezing method. In this demonstration, I have cleaned and cut up fresh basil. I have placed it evenly into an ice cube tray, as you can see here, and then I'm going to take my olive oil and fill in those air spaces in each cube. Then I'll place it in the freezer, allow it to solidify, and then I can put it into a little mason jar and keep for storage in my freezer. Then you'll have individual cubes like this. The third method is drying with heat. You can use your oven or a food dehydrator for this method. I chose to demonstrate this method using my oven since you likely all have one. You will first preheat your oven to 400 degrees, and while that's preheating, remove any stems from your herb of choice. In my case, I chose parsley. Then once your oven reaches temperature, lower the temperature to 170 degrees. Place the leaves of the parsley in an even layer onto a baking sheet lined with parchment paper, and then let them dry in the oven for about 30 minutes. After 30 minutes is up, check if the leaves are dry by listening to the crunching sound. When they reach that desired crunchiness, you can just keep crunching them in your hand until they become the desired length and feel that you want them to have before you put them into your spice bottle. Today we talked about 3 ways to preserve herbs. First, air drying, second was freezing, and then third was drying by heat. And so we learned that preserving your own herbs is a way to practice healthy and sustainable lifestyle. And so therefore in today's final thought, I picked a quote from Wendell Berry, and it goes, "Herbalism is based on relationship. Relationship between plant and human, plant and planet, human and planet. Using herbs in the healing process means taking part in an ecological cycle." So with that being said, I hope that you use some of these preservation techniques in your own garden, especially for your herbs. And other than that, be sure to check out our social media pages. We have some awesome children's programming virtually happening online in July, and so be sure to sign up for that. And other than that, I will see you in a few weeks.
I have worked upon the hillsides where the pines sing in the wind, where the renters lived before me, and the miners before them.